Melton Jackson Hayes will protect it effectively. Look at Jackson run. Look at Jackson protect. Back
And how's it going, folks? My name is Sean Militello, and welcome to Off the Dome Sports, where we got one hell of a show for you tonight. We're going to be talking Ragin Cajuns football. Yeah, you heard that. Ragin Cajuns football right there down in Lafayette, Louisiana. I got a special guest co-host right here, UL alum, Mr. Ryne Navarro. How's it going today, Ryan?
Hey, it's always a great day to be a Cajun. You know what I mean? We got the best coach in Louisiana.
Hey,
maybe the best football program in Louisiana right now.
Hey, Billy Napier has a powerhouse growing right there in the swamps of Lafayette. I'm telling you, man, he might stay. He might not leave for any other program. Why should he?
Why should he? You know, he got a good thing going. You know, there was an article published about 2-3 weeks ago that had a conversation with Billy Napier, and he was talking about like how good he has in Lafayette. He's like, why would I want to leave? They keep giving me raises. My family's happy here, and you know, we got a good thing going.
Yes, we do have a special guest tonight. We at 8:10, we're going to be calling Tim Buckley of the Daily Advertiser, UL sports beat writer, knows everything about Ragin Cajun sports. He's going to come on and answer a few questions and really get his perspective on how this season will play out, especially week 1 versus the Texas Longhorns. But before we get into that, we have about 6 minutes before we get to Tim. Ryan, let's review the 2020-2021 season. They finished 11-1 last year. Their only loss was against Coastal Carolina by 2 points at home. They ended up beating UTSA in the Responder Bowl, 31-24. The most notable win was against number 23 ranked Iowa State. So, Ryan, give a review of last season and how it will transfer over this season.
You know, it's kind of weird because Iowa State at one point in the season was a top 10 team, and UL, I think the highest they ever got was maybe 15, maybe. Actually, I think it was 17, but still, you know, phenomenal season when you look at it. Coming out of the gates, I know it's a COVID year and everything was kind of messed up, but you come out the gates, beat Iowa State in Ames, Iowa. You couldn't really write a much better script. Special teams actually won that game. And, you know, last year was special. And, you know, you're looking towards this year. We only lost 3 people on that team, 3 key people. You lost Deuce Whittam. Obviously, he's playing with the Saints. Trey Regis, who went undrafted, but is trying to make the team with the Las Vegas Raiders. And then you have Elijah Mitchell, who's fighting maybe for the number 1 spot, RB spot with the 49ers. So, you know, you have to be excited this season with the amount of experience coming back. 9 preseason Sunbelt picks. So, you know, this team has the potential to be something really, really special. And, you know, it's hard for those group of 5 teams, but you come out with a statement win against Texas. You're talking, you know, people give Texas a lot more credit than usual. I remember that year, everybody was bragging about LSU being Texas, and Texas ended up being unranked that year. But, I mean, you beat them at the beginning of the year. You know, you start getting the conversation in, and Hey, look, everybody knows what Billy Napier's made of. This team is relying solely on experience, and it's going to be exciting to watch the Ragin Cajuns, and just kind of like it was last year. But hey, look, we're running it back. We're going to do it even better this year. The goal, I think, honestly, has to be a group of 5, the New Year's 6 bowl games.
Yeah, and man, I can see the excitement on your face, Ryan, as a advocate UL fan, being an alum. We got our guy Kevin Fitzmaurice from JDS Sports saying, "Let's go." He also said, "My guys, for the lead." I
What's
appreciate
up?
that, Kevin. Go check out Kevin at JDS Sports and all the news and shows they put on over there. Legit stuff over there. I believe Kevin's fixing to start his fantasy show with Tyrell. So we'll see how that goes. I'm looking forward to watch that. So, anyways, we got about 3 more minutes before we call Tim Buckley of the Daily Advertiser, UL Sports beat writer. But yes, man, they had a great season last year. We're looking to transfer that over to this year. 98% of the starters came back. In your first games against 19th ranked, I believe 19th ranked Texas Longhorns. We all know Texas is not Texas in a very long time, but it's still Texas. You're still playing against the 4-star, 5-star recruits. People in Texas talking high on Steve Sarkisian, but isn't that what they always do down there in Texas, Austin, Texas?
Yeah, I mean, look how Tom Herman fared for him. It's just
that was your boy, Ryan.
I really did like Tom Herman, but you get a bad rep sometimes when you go to Texas. I think that might have been one of the reasons why Billy Napier didn't want that job. But hey, look, beating Texas. There's beating Iowa State, which Iowa State was fantastic for the program. It put the program on the map. Beating Texas puts the program even on the map even more. It's like, oh, there's, last year there's this other school that's, 60 miles away from Baton Rouge out there that's pretty good. You beat Texas. Everyone knows about Texas. People care less about Iowa State, but everyone's going to talk about Texas. They got a lot of pull. You beat Texas, that gets you a lot more national exposure than Iowa State does. And, then you can then they start talking about you even more. It's, oh, this team beat Texas. This group of 5 team, they got this great coach. Last year they beat Iowa State. This year they beat Texas. Then that only helps the program grow. You think, now they're relying on 4 stars, 3-star recruits. Then all of a sudden you beat Texas, you get a better name. And as you get that better name, your better recruits start coming. And that ultimately helps your chances of keeping Billy Napier. If he can get his own recruits and keep doing what he's doing, that helps your chances on getting to a better conference, getting better recruits, and just being a better program overall. UL, I worked for the athletics department. They got state-of-the-art facilities. They really do. Kind of Big 10, Big 12 level facilities. It's not LSU by any means, but they're still fantastic facilities. The program, I mean, UL in general, softball team's naturally ranked every year. Baseball is usually naturally ranked. Track, they got all these programs that are usually nationally ranked. They should be an attractive spot, really, for some of these larger conferences. These, I don't know why I can't think of the name, but these larger conferences like SEC or Big 12 to really reach out and put them on the phone and see what's up.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Ryan. We're fixing to get Tim Buckley on the phone, and in a sec, right now, let's read these comments real quick by Daryl Lancelot. Is that how you say it?
Lanclaw.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not Cajun. Even though I'm from Louisiana, I'm from North Louisiana, so it's different. It's a different side of the state. He says Cajuns turning the horns down. And then he says another Texas future SEC team win like when we beat A&M. We play A&M?
No.
Next year?
He's probably talking about We might have them in the future. I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, beat A&M way back in the 90s when nobody knew who the UL was. So
Right. So I'm gonna get Tim on the phone. We're dialing right now. Let's see if he'll answer.
Hello.
How's it going? Tim Buckley, from the Daily Advertiser, UL Beat Sports reporter. How's it going?
Doing good. Doing good.
So I'm with my guest co-host Ryne Navarro, former UL alum. We were just talking about Week 1 versus Texas Longhorns and how much of a statement it could be if we can get a W down in Austin, Texas. What do you think about that?
Well, if the Cajuns could get a W, it certainly would be a statement, much like they made a statement when they beat Iowa State to start last season and then ended the season nationally ranked. It certainly would set the tone for the same. Now, whether or not it would be as much of an upset, you can perhaps debate that since you got two nationally ranked teams in this instance. But there's no question the Cajuns are going in as the underdog. So, statement game to start off right off the bat, absolutely.
Do you think this puts UL on the map nationally? Maybe work their way up. If they were to go undefeated and beat Coastal Carolina as well, maybe work their way up into the top 10.
Well, I think it can be argued they're already on the map since they're ranked 23rd in both polls to open the season. But yeah, there's no question they can work their way up. Now, how high? Obviously you got strength of schedule to consider after you have the Texas game. And don't forget, they do not play Coastal Carolina this season. So you got to factor in that part of it. And then you got to factor in all the other pieces as well. What do other teams above them do? What sort of credence do voters give the Sun Belt schedule? How convincing or not convincing, or are there other wins if they get on a little streak? There's just so many different factors. Look, at the end of last season, Coastal Carolina ended up number 12 in the final CFP rankings. So I would think that there's reasonable cause to think that if everything were to fall into place for the Cajuns, that certainly would be at a minimum a possibility for them.
For sure, and if that's possible, can you see the Cajuns finally being Sunbelt champs? I know they kind of shared. I guess they shared it last year, but I mean, technically, I guess Coastal Carolina, with their record beating us, I guess they basically won the Sun Belt. I'm not too sure on that. But do you think this is the year UL will finally win the Sun Belt championship straight up?
Well, I think they're set up for that. Now, whether or not they fulfill it or not, we wait and see. You were right. Officially, last season, they did share it. They've had multiple seasons where they've had a share of the Sun Belt, but they've never had an outright Sun Belt championship. So, if they can take care of business like it seems like everybody's expecting them to, and then finally make that breakthrough in the championship game, they'll finally have that outright championship. But the championship game has been a little bit of a stumbling block for them. It's only been around since 2018. They played in both of the first two, and they lost both of them at App State. And let's not take App State out of this equation either. Who knows? They could end up as the East champs hosting again. It's a lot of variables.
Yes, yes, indeed. Now I'm gonna let my co-host Ryne Navarro. I'm gonna let him ask a few questions before we get you out of here.
Hey, Tim. Just a quick question. You were talking about how how the voters of the college football playoff committee kind of vote. Would you think experience? Obviously this team's bringing back majority of its starters, really only losing 3 key guys last year. Would you think experience could play into getting a little bit more attention because, I mean, you look around, obviously running back's a little thinner than it was last year. Well, I wouldn't say thinner, it's just not the big names. But would you think that could play a role into it? Did we lose Tim?
You know, he's going to be in demand. He's been in demand for the past 2 seasons. Turned down the Mississippi State job. Apparently, wasn't interested in the South Carolina job. You know, whether or not he was offered Auburn depends on who you listen to or don't listen to. But he has been a coach in demand. In all likelihood, he is going to continue to be a coach in demand. And one of the big reasons I think that he did come back, among many, is the fact that they are, as Ryan mentioned, as loaded as they are coming back. They're going to lose a lot after this season, and that'll probably factor into the decision making, at least to some degree as well. So it might not even take the everything falls into place perfectly scenario that you laid out for that to end up happening.
Yeah, that makes perfectly good sense. I think we're just having some audio problems with Ryan. I'm just gonna let him ask two more questions, and then we're gonna get you out of here. Go ahead, Ryan.
Hey, Tim. So obviously the running back room has a little bit of a shift this year. What are you kind of hearing? Obviously, Chris Smith's going to be the front runner. But what are you hearing outside of him? I know we had a couple good recruits come in. I know specifically the boy from Karen Crow. So what are you just seeing around with running backs?
Well, there's no question that Chris is going to step into a feature role. He was number 3 last season. Terrific kickoff returner. He's going to keep on doing that. It seems like in the regular rotation, both TJ Wisham, who missed a large part of last season with a real serious wrist injury, he was mostly a special teams player last year, and Amani Bally, young guy out of Texas. Appears those two have worked their way into the regular rotation, and they signed 4 freshman running backs. One of them was the young man you referenced, Williams out of Karen Crow, but the one who's really seems to be making some waves in camp is Montrell Johnson Jr. out of De La Salle in New Orleans. People in Lafayette are familiar with him because he played against St. Thomas More in 2 straight state championship games, and apparently had a really good first scrimmage, and he got a little bit of mention from Billy Napier. So we'll wait and see if he can work his way into the rotation as well. But no matter who it is, they got a load to make up for with the loss of Elijah Mitchell and Trey Regis.
Yeah, understandable. The offensive line is pretty stacked too. Obviously they got plenty of recognition so far from all these preseason awards, watch lists, and stuff. Really, I mean, as far as defense, pretty much the whole defense is coming back. What's the true weakness of this team? Is there any?
Well, it's the running back question because they got to go out and prove it now. Everybody is high on Chris Smith because of what they've seen from him in flashes. What can he do as an everyday, or I should say, an every down type back? I don't know if it's necessarily a weakness, but it's certainly a question that needs to be addressed. They got a new holder. I mean, I guess you're really reaching if that's what you're talking about for weaknesses. But they got to get I'm sorry, I shouldn't say holder. A new snapper, new deep snapper. But you're reaching if that's what you're talking about there. So I don't know about weaknesses so much as now just going to have to getting it done as much as anything.
All right, Ryan, you have any more questions for him?
Nah, he's pretty much covered it all up. I mean, he's going to be the expert over here, but really appreciate Tim coming along. I've been following him on Twitter for quite some time now, looking for my Ragin Cajun updates.
Yes, for sure. Go follow Tim Buckley on Twitter at TDA Ragin Cajuns. Tim, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate your time. And hopefully the Cajuns beat Texas week 1.
All right, fellas. Appreciate you having me. Have a good night.
You too.
You too.
And that was Tim Buckley of the Daily Advertiser, UL Beat Sports reporter. That was awesome, Ryan. I really liked that. I thought we asked some very good questions. What do you think about that?
Tim's obviously going to be an expert. He covers the team day in, day out. You only hear people that really cover the team. I mean, that's the Lafayette newspaper. I mean, the Advocate does a little bit, but really awesome to have him on. Now I'm solo. I saw we had a couple of comments in there. That was another thing. I didn't even realize we weren't playing Coastal this year. That's really interesting. So basically, it's going to be between Coastal and App State for the Sunbelt East title. But when you look at it, I mean, every team's going to be improving. Georgia Southern, Georgia State, both those teams are going to get better than what they were last year. In the Sun Belt, Arkansas State had a down year last year compared to what they normally were. But, I mean, like you said, this team is really going on experience, experience being a huge factor when you factor in that they only lost 3 key players last year compared to, the normal turnover. I mean, obviously, you're not going to have the normal turnover in a Sun Belt school as you will in an SEC school, but it certainly has to mean something, especially when you got a coach like Billy Napier in the mix. It looks like Sean lost some audio. If y'all want to ask any kind of questions, Saints or Pelicans related, you can go ahead and shoot those over. But, looking forward to the Ragin' Cajuns having another great season. Probably going to win their 4th straight Sunbelt West title. Again, I just don't see this team losing much in the Sunbelt if it's not App State or Coastal Carolina.
I don't know if you can hear me, but yeah, I certainly agree. You can hear me, Ryan?
Yeah.
Well, I heard everything you said. I don't know. I guess my Wi-Fi is pretty bad right now, but I think we should go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate you, Ryan, for coming on. Hopefully, we'll get you on again. Talk about some more Ragin' Cajuns. Hopefully, we'll beat the Horns. Horns down, huh?
Horns down. That's the goal.
Horns. Make sure you follow on Sports on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and YouTube. So this will be it. Catch us next time. Hopefully we'll go live next week. See y'all later.